Tonight, we begin with Fess Up or Face Up Southern Response. That's the challenge from a Christchurch couple after Southern Response was last month found guilty of misleading and deceptive behaviour when it shortchanged Karl and Alison Dodds close to $250,000 after their quake-damaged house was written off. In 2012, Southern Response gave the Dodds what's known as a detailed repair rebuild analysis, or a DRA, basically a quote for rebuilding their Huntsbury home, but it was an edited version of the cost of a rebuild. It kept secret from the Dodds the real estimate that was hundreds of thousands of dollars more. Oblivious to the second DRA, the Dodds settled on the lesser figure, leaving them massively out of pocket. Last month, the High Court ordered the state-owned insurer to pay up. Now the Dodds are begging Southern Response not to appeal the decision. I went to Christchurch to ask Karl and Alison how they would describe Southern Response's behaviour.
One word, Lisa: nefarious. They set about clearly with a preordained, premeditated intention to hide costs and misrepresent and mislead us, and this they succeeded in doing. We're just ordinary New Zealanders who have worked all our lives to put together and make a lovely home for our retirement, and that has been taken from us, and we feel aggrieved, betrayed, and deeply saddened by the fact that a government company whose clear brief from the Honourable Jerry Brownlee was to act in a very fair and transparent and open manner has, for whatever reason, made the decision to do the opposite. And for that, we will never forgive them.
When it comes to their statement of intent, if you look on Southern Response website, they say they will act with integrity. We will demonstrate honesty, transparency and fairness.
Well, they haven't done any of those, I'm sorry. None at all as far as we're concerned.
The website also states their Official Information Act policy, which is to release information from both them and from Arrow International, and we believe that they have done their best to not release information as well, which has just compounded the pit that they've got themselves into.
Southern Response basically lowballed you. They showed you a DRA with a set amount on it, but there was a secret DRA that they kept from you, which was for a higher amount, right? When did you suspect that you had been duped?
That would have been when friends, colleagues who learned about what the offer, what the rebuild price was for a house, were kind of, I won't say rolling around the floor with laughter, but it was along the lines of, you accepted what? And that was a trigger.
So other people recognised that the figure was really low?
Absolutely.
Which is what got you thinking?
Yes, and we naively, because we put absolute trust in this government agency and trust in their bedfellows, Arrow International, whom we thought was an international company of repute, we just assumed that this was all going to be above board. And that's when Ali made an application under the Official Information Act to perhaps trawl through some of this documentation in case our thoughts were no deception, just perhaps a mistake, that they may have just added up a column of figures wrong. So that was our purpose in getting that information.
So you get your file, you get the file, and you start to look through the documents. Alison, can you just think back to the moment you realised someone's lied to us?
I was so shocked, and I said, we've been duped here. We've been done. And honestly, I just, my heart sank. Well, this is our life investment. This is where we've put our retirement fund into our home, that we can sell it one day and we've got enough for our retirement. And we'd been done. How gutting was that? We're just ordinary people doing ordinary job of work every day, putting plans in place for our future, our final years together, if you like. And yeah, it was gutting, to be quite honest with you. Sorry.
It's been, well, some tough years for you, hasn't it, Alison?
Honestly, yeah.
Oh, it has been tough.
It's been really, really hard. Thank goodness we're really strong as a couple, because I'm sure it must have told on a lot of people in stress and in relationships, families, in many ways.
What appears to be apparent is that Southern Response have clearly made some serious errors of judgment, but at no time have they, in our experience, come forward and said, look, I'm sorry, we've made a mistake here, or we have perhaps been overzealous in our attempt to minimise costs of the government, or for whatever reason, just acknowledge the hurt and pain that they have caused large tracts of people in the Canterbury community.
For people who haven't lived through this, they may not understand how stressful it has been. Can you just explain to us what kind of toll this has taken on you?
I think, well, Ali will have a comment on this, I'm absolutely certain, but we did not articulate this at all well in the trial, because it's really hard to put into words what subtle effects living a nightmare actually does to you. So from our point of view, it has basically eaten away at us. As with any injustice, you think, how can we rectify this? What are our possible options to put right or wrong? And if we could have added up the lost sleep and the lost hours, sitting up in bed at night with a laptop, researching this, writing letters, writing submissions, it must be, would it be thousands? Certainly hundreds.
Thousands,
of
Dave,
hours.
absolutely thousands.
We've lived and breathed this since 2015, and what has been even more frustrating and distressful over the last few months is the stuff that's come out of the woodwork that we didn't even know about. For example, as stated in the opening address by Southern Response's lawyers, that Southern Response were acting with the intention of minimising costs. Now, had we known that this had been their intention all along, we would have been far more vigilant and less trusting.
Because did you trust them in the
Totally.
beginning of the process?
Absolutely. They're a government
company.
agents,
Why
government
wouldn't
company,
you?
Yeah.
Is that why you trusted them? You thought this is a
Yep.
state-owned insurer?
Yes.
Did you think they had your best interests at heart
Absolutely.
in the beginning?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, they made all
No
the right
reason
noises.
to distrust our government, a government department, a government company. Why would we distrust them?
Does that add to your sense of betrayal?
It does. Totally. Totally. We should never have been in this position.
Ali and I have between us some 60 years of loyal government service. We would regard ourselves as upstanding, forthright government employees, and when dealing with fellow government employees, we would have had, or we had, an expectation of a similar sort of behaviour. So it has been incredibly disappointing to find that a government agency like this has indeed somehow created an incredible tapestry of subterfuge and secrecy and bad behaviour.
So who is responsible? Who do you hold responsible for this?
Well, it has to come from on top. Everybody on top is the responsible person, I'm afraid. So whatever they've been told to do.
Yeah, Liz Fife made the comment in the hearing.
So Liz Fife
Liz
from
Fife
Southern
is
Response.
from Southern Response, who is the senior litigation manager, said that decisions of this type, i.e. specifically to hide material from customers, was made at the highest level in the organisation. Now, as a person who was already a senior manager, it was made at whoever's beyond senior management. That narrows down the number of people. And I think it was a little, I guess, sad to when she explained why these sorts of steps were taken was that it was because people like us would become confused. That was her reason for withholding information. The logic being the more you withhold from your policyholders, the less confused we're going to be.
Would you have been confused by honesty?
Absolutely not.
We probably would have been a lot better off, actually, if we'd known all the facts in the first place. We could have made informed decisions about our future. It wasn't for Southern Response to decide that.
So, in court, you hear that the decision, a considered decision was made to withhold these second DRAs, the secret DRAs, that this was made at a very senior level. Do you want to know who made those decisions? Do you want names? Do you want accountability? And what form would that come in for you?
Accountability would be good. Someone needs to pipe up and say they've got it wrong. I'm sorry. Somebody saying I'm sorry for what you've had to go through. And why pick on us? Why have we had to go through this?
Because we got the short straw for reasons unknown. Yeah.
Accountability, Karl? What?
Accountability is in a perfect world, here is what I would like to see happen. It may not happen, but I know there's a lot of voices in the background wanting it to happen. This is my view. There needs to be an independent, meticulous and far-reaching inquiry into the operation and behaviour of Southern Response. That's thing number one. Thing number two, and separate to thing number one, is I believe there needs to be a detailed and meticulous investigation into why and how a Crown company with Treasury observers present and monitoring that company failed to pick up that the company was acting badly, that the company had gone rogue. This is answering your question about accountability. Why did the Treasury observers and Mr. Brownlee's office not detect that all was not well with Southern Response? I mean, we had just had the Avonside case. Mr. Brownlee said he didn't know the details of that. That's fine. But surely somebody in Treasury should have known the details of that and the implications that it meant for Southern Response. That the spying case, which really was the downfall of some senior or a senior management official, that should have been picked up by Treasury. After it's cost the taxpayer $370,000 for that spying, to pay the firm that did the spying. Why was that not detected? So to answer your question about accountability, something has gone very wrong with the auditing and monitoring processes.
So you would like utter transparency and a full inquiry, pick this place apart and see what is going on?
Yes, and I would go one step further. I would like to see a third inquiry into how the whole dismal situation came about, because we were AMI customers, policyholders. AMI is a mutual insurer. Who owns the company? We own the company. How is it possible for our policies to be transferred to a government corporation, a government company, without our approval? Something's gone wrong with AMI as well.
Why does this matter so much? Why does it matter that we look into this company, that we have an inquiry?
Because unless we look in, turn it over thoroughly and implement new regulations and rules and guidelines for behaviour, there is nothing to stop this happening again. And although most of New Zealand are sick and tired of hearing about Christchurch whinging on about issues as yet still unresolved, it really does impact on every New Zealander because, as I said, this could conceivably happen again. And transparency in governance of New Zealand corporations, state-owned enterprises, government companies, has to be so transparent that you cannot get away with this sort of nonsense ever again.
Alison, you mentioned an apology. It's seemingly something quite simple. Has anyone from Southern Response picked up the phone to say sorry?
That would be a no then. No, absolutely not. We've not heard from them at all. The only thing we've heard from them is through their lawyers. And basically all we get from them is no, no, no.
Why is it important to you that someone do apologise?
Look, this whole experience for me has been so out of my comfort zone, so alien to me. Being in a law court, that in itself was the most traumatic experience for me. I've never sat in a witness box, nor would I ever want to again. As I say, I cried the whole way through it. Shocking, absolutely shocking. I felt when being examined by the opposition, if you like, that I was being treated like a criminal. I'm sure they were as kind as they could be, but nonetheless, that's how you feel. I can honestly understand why other people haven't taken their cases any further. I mean, it's cost us so much money and it's cost us so much stress. My health has not been good anyway, but things such as this, the stress levels just exacerbate my health problems. I just sincerely hope that nobody else has to go through this. This is just atrocious. And for someone to say sorry would mean so much. But so far we've seen nothing like that from Southern Response. I just feel like we're just one of a number and it really doesn't matter.
What would you say to the managers there and the senior people who made the decision to deceive? What would you say to them?
How could you do it? How could you treat us like that? What have we ever done to deserve to be treated like that? We're just ordinary people. We've paid our insurance. We've done our dues. Karl's supposed to be retired. There's some hope of that. He's going to just have to keep working to pay the bills. But, you know, we just want to get on with our lives. This is 8.5 years. We just want someone to acknowledge that they've got it wrong. Goodness gracious, if they were to appeal, please, Southern Response, do the right thing and don't appeal. Just let us get on with our lives. We're just two people, ordinary people.
You mentioned the appeal, Alison. There is still an appeal period.
Yes.
They could take this back to the court again. What would that do to you?
I'd be crushed, to be quite honest. I don't know if I can cope with it. We feel we've got to see it through because we've come so far, and Justice Gendel and our lovely lawyers, they've done such a good job for us, Peter Woods and Tim Grimwood. They've been awesome, absolutely lovely. We just feel for it, other people that are in our situation.
Excuse me.
Promised I wouldn't cry, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry. You've got nothing to be sorry for.
We just really want all this to be put to bed and to carry on with our lives. We just want to go back to our little home and...
Yeah. We have to see it through, clearly.
Karl's really strong. He's been really good.
Yeah. If they want to take it to the Supreme Court, we'll see them there.
Should they, though?
Free country, they can do what they want.
But look at what Justice Gendel has said. Read that so carefully. He's done such a wonderful job. Come on, Southern Response. Fess up. Face up. You've got it wrong. Just do the right thing by people and get their lives back on track. Get Christchurch back on track. If all of us could get back on track, there might be some hope. And I'm sorry, the rest of the country, I'm sure you're sick of us whinging, but it's still very real for us. Very, very real. We're still living it.
Southern Response have no reputation left, and it would be prudent to simply wave their white flag and say, look guys, we've been caught, we're sorry, done and dusted, put it all right, fix all the other people. There's, as we said earlier in this interview, there's countless numbers of other people hurting out there, and we're doing this for them as well. And let's all move forward, rebuild our lives. Let's rebuild Christchurch. I mean, it'd be great for people like Ali and I to put some energy into Christchurch in some way. You know, we've still got a lot of life ahead of us. We've got lots of good things that we could be contributing to, but we have no energy left. Southern Response have sapped us dry. It was a bully boys beating up on the little guy.